But not least, our last Hall of Fame inductee is for the Sportscaster Award induction. This year's inductee is Mr. Steve Sullivan, Sports Director for KTV Channel 7 in Little Rock. Steve has been in the sportscasting business, I think, for 31 years. Currently the play-by-play announcer for my old team, Central Arkansas. Of course, it was state teachers when I went there, and then State College, and now it's Central University of Arkansas. He was also play-by-play for college at Arkansas State, Henderson State, Harding, UALR Trojans, play-by-play in high school at Greenbrier, Benton, Fort Smith, Northside, and Southside. Tonight we honor the 7th sportscaster in the Arkansas Sportscaster and Sportswriters Hall of Fame, Mr. Steve Sullivan. Let's look at the film.
And I had the pleasure, I think, of working with Paul in the best time, his last 6 or 7 years. And I really looked over there and I tried to figure what made this guy such a huge star. I mean, there were times we'd go out and I'd be the camera guy and he'd be the interview guy, and it would be just the reaction we would get would be unbelievable.
Quick toss right side. Catch is made by Grandy. Needs a block. Gets a block. Cross the 30. Races up the sideline. 20, 15, 10, 5. Did he get in? Jesse Grandy. UCA touchdown. 36 yards. Wow. 3, 2, 1. They just need to make the tackle. Carry 30. They pitch it back at the 25. They got him cornered. They throw it across the field back to Stroud. He's in trouble at the 20. He hesitates. He throws it back to the 10. Bears have him covered. They got him. Bears win. Bears win. 27-26.
Mr. Steve. Introducing Steve into the induction tonight as Sullivan is Roger Susanna from KTV Channel 7 in Little Rock. Roger.
Do I get to keep this? No. Well, it is a real honor to be here to introduce a very worthy candidate into this Hall of Fame. You know, it's amazing when you look at that video and you think that Sully has been a sportscaster here in Arkansas for more than 30 years. He really is an icon, and that video was appropriate because I've always thought of Sully as kind of a paler, thinner Oprah, and I think he looked pretty good in that outfit. But the truth is, it's pretty scary. Like it or not, he's also a sex symbol in this community. And I'm as disappointed as the rest of you that that is the case. But Sully has covered so many great teams, so many great coaches, so many great players. But when I think about Sully, I think about the way that he just loves the underdogs. If you ever watch a Sully's Little Heroes, he always focuses on the little athletes who try the hardest. It's not always the athletes that excel the most on the field. It's the underdogs. Sully really admires effort. And a few years ago, we got to see just how hard Sully is willing to work when he ran out onto the Christmas karaoke stage wearing nothing but a leotard. Again, it was pretty scary for a lot of us, but the crowd loved it because, again, he's a sex symbol. And if you watch that video, the funniest part isn't just what he's doing, it's the look on his face. He's trying to dance with the Channel 7 ladies, and he's working so hard at it, and he's failing so miserably. But again, the effort's there. You know, people love being around Sully, and if you ever go into the Channel 7 sports office, you'll see tons of mostly younger TV people just hanging around with him. And we admire a lot of things about Sully. We admire the broadcaster that he is, but what we really admire is the person that he is. He's the consummate family man. He talks way more about Tony, Kayla, and Keely than any of his little heroes. He's probably the happiest person I've ever met. In fact, Keely one time told me that's what she admired most about her dad, was that he was just relentlessly happy. He's also a really compassionate guy. You know, years ago, Sully got a tip. It was a sad news that legendary Pine Bluff baseball coach Billy Buck had passed away. And so at the end of Sully's sportscast that night, he delivered a really moving and beautiful eulogy to Coach Buck. And after the show ended, he got a phone call, and it was Coach Buck's son. And he said, you know, the words that you used to describe my father were really beautiful, and I want to let you know how much I appreciate those words. One thing, though, Dad's not actually dead. It was a bad tip. It was a bad tip. But it was the wildest deal. It actually turned out to be a positive thing, because in the next few weeks, a lot of Coach Buck's former players called him, including Torrey Hunter, called the family, I should say, and they said they wanted to offer their condolences on the passing of Coach Buck, and I guess really they got a chance to actually talk to him in person, so that was nice. A few weeks later, Coach Buck dies again, I guess, this time for real. And so Sully again goes on the air, and for the second time, does a very nice eulogy to Coach Buck, tells everyone what he's meant to his players and to all of Arkansas. So again, he finishes the sportscast, and again he gets one lone phone call. And this time, it's from a regular viewer, and he says, Sully, I really appreciate those kind words that you used to describe Coach Buck. He was really a great guy. The only thing, though, I thought you said he died 2 weeks ago. Sully wasn't, he's not perfect, but he's pretty close. The video is also appropriate because of the way that Sully really did and does idolize Paul Eels. And I never had the chance to know Paul, but I feel like I knew him because of the words that Sully uses to describe Paul. But we love Sully because for someone that lives so much of his life in the spotlight, when the cameras are off, that's really when he's at his best. And several years ago, after Paul's horrible tragedy, it felt like everybody was there at Robinson Auditorium for Paul's funeral. But later that week, there was a second, much smaller funeral just north of Russellville for Billie Joe Burton. She was the second victim in that horrible car crash. Sully, along with Jason Peterson, wanted to be there for her. I'm sure that Paul was proud of Sully that day, and I'm sure he's proud of you now. Sully, I hope that I can be half the broadcaster you are and half the man you are. So congratulations on this great award. Without anything further, here's the man, Sully.
I told Roger that he's a once in a 30 years type of guy, and I do hang out. I don't know what it is, but Justin Lewis is here, Courtney's here. It's mostly young guys gather in the sports office, and Matt Johnson, who left, probably put it best that I'm the crazy uncle that they didn't have. But look, these are true Hall of Famers. When you talk, boy, Joe Mosby, I've read him, didn't know he was a comedian. But 60, 70 years, and Jimmy Red Parker, Friday nights, very intense, and we get into the games, the highlights, and I always encourage my photographers, if they get something special, to send it back. Well, one season, it was the opening game, and maybe when you're at Rising, I get this blurb, coach in the locker room. it's Jimmy Red Parker. Man, you should see him in the locker room. I don't care how old he is. I mean, those kids leave that locker room, I mean, just, boy, ready to just annihilate their opponent. 4 weeks later, another Rising game. Photographer says, got a great speech from the coach. I swear it was the same speech. And they got the same reaction. That's a Hall of Fame coach right there. And it's the TV guy who brings the notes tonight. But I'm originally from Framingham, Massachusetts. And you wonder how a guy from Massachusetts gets to Arkansas. I have a brother who's, musically inclined, can fix things. One of 6 kids, parents grew up in Ireland. No one was big in sports. I was just eaten up, obsessed with sports. So I got to be 16, 17 years old and think, well, what am I going to do? And I learned in this, and it's really helped me throughout my career, all it takes is one person to get that dream going. And my dad said, you could be the next voice of the Boston Red Sox. From that point on, and I thought 30 years was a long time, but I've been blessed to do 30 years and made a bad investment though, and it turned out maybe to be a good investment. As a junior in high school, didn't have much college money, and a buddy of mine was an assistant dog trainer. So he called me and he said, we have a chance to just, make it rich. All I need is $400. So we invested in Keen Twister, a 3-year-old greyhound. So that meant I was about to go to college, so I had to pick a school that was cheap, had a radio TV program, and was close to a racetrack. So sight unseen, I showed up in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and I was parking my car and running fodder and everyone, and that was, a culture shock, and I lasted longer than the dog. Thought I was pretty good getting out of school, sent out all those tapes. I sent them, my wife's from Michigan, sent them to Michigan, Massachusetts, all over Arkansas, and I got one yes, and it was 4:30 to noon in the morning in KFBW in Fort Smith doing news, and I was just flat out horrible. And I got to do play-by-play for Fort Smith Christian, and tell you how old I am, the first play-by-play job, Gus Malzahn, was the coach at Auburn, was the wide receiver on that Fort Smith Christian team. So I go back a few years. But here's a lesson I learned too there. I was doing these updates on old 8-track tapes. We've come a long way in technology too. The great thing about those, you could put 4 or 5 newscasts on there. The bad thing about those, if you made a mistake on number 5, you had to do all 5 over. So I was going to golf that afternoon, and I got through 4, and on the 5th one, I made a mistake, and I said the word over and over and over, and you can ask the girls, my wife, I don't swear very often, but I was in a room, I was highly frustrated. I said "oh" in the worst possible words you can say. And this is a Music of Your Life station. This is Glenn Miller. So I'm frustrated. I go out of there. The guy following me says, don't worry about it. I'll fast forward through the other 4 after I get through the 4, and you won't have to worry about that 5th one hitting the air. Well, sure enough, I get a call. And when you're making $800 a month and you're the newsman on the 4:30 to 12:30 a.m. station, and you said, oh, and it begins with an F, and it's really bad, and I really feel bad I said it. But I did say it, and so I get called in, and we had a multi-millionaire. He went on to own part of the Sacramento Kings, Bob Hernreich, and he said to me, and I'd never met him before that, and he said, you know what you said on the radio? And I tried to explain, I made a mistake, and it shouldn't have aired, and he said, we got 35 calls. He said, 34 were highly upset, and we don't want the one listening to us that enjoyed it. But he said, not one of the 35 mentioned you by name. So what I thought was a real important job at that time, I was just a voice, but we can't put you back on radio. So they owned a TV station. He said, I'm thinking of making drastic changes over there, so we're going to send the guy who swears over to the TV station. But it happened, and that launched the TV career. Good or bad, that's the way it started, and it's true. Fortunate to have a guy, Wendell Stacy, gave my tape to Bob Steele. Takes one man to hire you. Bob Steele hired me at Channel 4. 14 years, had a chance to work with the greats in the TV business. Carolyn Long, Roy Mitchell, Tom Bonner, Dave Woodman. Never forget how little things can can boost you. First time I went on the air, and I talk fast. Imagine when it's your first broadcast in Little Rock, and I was going 100 miles an hour through football highlights. And you wonder at the end of the day, you know, how was it? And whether it was good or bad, Tom Bonner called me and said, man, that was the best thing I've heard in a long time. And that really stuck with me. And after 13 or 14 years there, boy, a career-saving move. I want to thank my Channel 7 folks here tonight. Mark Rose right there, want to stand up? The general manager, Wayne Cox, salesman, Justin Lewis, one of the young guys, Courtney Dixon. But the greatest move ever. I'm now in year 15 there. I've learned so many new things. Paul's probably looking down thinking, what are they making you do? I mean, we're doing stuff technically that you know, I can only dream of doing, but it's kind of like a moving from Channel 4 to Channel 7, and people who've worked at TV will tell you this, that worked at the other stations that are maybe retired now. I'm an old Red Sox fan, still a Red Sox fan. Well, you know, the Channel 7 is like the Yankees were. You know, they're the station you want to work at. There's a reason Paul Eels was there for 30 years. There's a reason Ned Permy has been there 25 years. They just do things right, and that was such a pleasure to go work there. As far as it's been great times there. The young guys, I love it. It's, boy, they're keeping me young. And this is, by the way, Roger Susanna just had his last day on Friday, and that's probably the worst thing about TV is adapting to change. As you get older, you treasure relationships more than accomplishments. And when every one of these guys go, I'm happy for them, but kind of a little sad for me. As far as my stuff I'll remember, I'm bad with these notes. 30 years, some of the highlights. Landers Award, love the Landers Award. You could tell by when these kids come in like Darren McFadden, Peyton Hillis, Tyler Wilson. Darren McFadden was in the studio yesterday. First thing he says to me is Oak Grove. You know, those memories. And I get to see them in high school and see them grow as people. Darren McFadden was doing promos for the U of A. I couldn't get 3 words out of him at the Landers Award, and he was spitting out those promos one after another yesterday. As far as, and then watching athletes. Got to watch Corliss Williamson when he was in 9th grade. And the excitement of being a sportscaster is you get to relay video to people. It's harder now with all the Twitter and Facebook, but you get to relay things that happen to people for the first time. I went to Russellville to do the first story on Corliss Williamson. I walk in there, it's a 6'6" man, about 230 pounds. He shatters the backboard in 8th grade. That was great. Years later, I'm there when he wins the national championship at the University of Arkansas. Years later, I'm there when he donates $1 million for the Boys and Girls Club in Russellville. But you saw the video, without a doubt, the highlight for me was Paul Eels, worked with him. You know, I'd watch him for years, and he'd say at the end of the sportscast, have a great, safe rest of the night. And, you know, you'd look over there and you think, I think the guy really means it. And it's nothing he did, but for 7 years, regardless of what kind of morning I had, when I went in there and saw him back there, my mood changed. And it was just, and my wife gets kind of frustrated because I'm highly competitive, and if I see something wrong at the station every once in a while, you know, I may irritate a person or two with my excitement for sports. She said, I thought you were more like Paul Eels. I said, you try to, you know, try to emulate the guy, but there was only one Paul Eels. But that was, without a doubt, the highlight of my broadcasting career. As far as all the people I could thank, and that's something I really regret, is failing to thank all the people that helped me. When you come from Massachusetts with basically no money, go to school at Arkansas State, you want to get home for Christmas, well, you got to have someone drive you to the airport. I had a family for 4 years, drove me to the airport. I had great guys in radio, Ken Rank and Bill Guffey at the first station in Fort Smith, 2 great professionals, 2 different men that showed me, you know, the work it takes to be successful. I got guys like Popeye, David Basil, Tony Ranchino. I can call those guys anytime, and oh boy, they'll help me. And my wife Tony over there in the pink, if you're going to be the wife of a sportscaster, is probably on the same level as the wife of a football coach, because you're gone on weekends, and I'm the extreme. I'm gone on Saturday mornings to shoot obscure Little League games. December, she's finally understood why I go to these championship games. So, I mean, why would you want to see Ryzen play Carlisle? You know, but she realizes now how important that is, and it's just been highly patient and understanding. She's not a big sports fan, and we battle at home between, it's a three-way TV battle. It's ESPN, Lifetime with the girls, and the Home and Garden Network. I lose more than I win. Two beautiful girls, Kayla and Keely, who think Dad can do no wrong, and have a great life. And they always said, you regret having a boy. And no way. And I really feel like Seal Shabazz, Madre Hill, Corliss Williamson, all those guys. Winrick Smothers, the quarterback for UCA, interned for me. And you want to talk about the greatest accomplishment I feel like I've had is interns. You saw the picture of Matt Turner. He started as an intern for me. A guy in the morning who interned for me at Channel 7 for 3 straight years, Chris Kane, the greatest guy. Mark deemed him too talented for sports and moved him to the morning show. Gene back there, Gene interned in sports. Chado Wilson, Eric Sullivan, who was at Channel 11, interned. And this past year, we had the quarterback for UCA who interned us. And I almost feel a responsibility. They all come with talent to, if they have the passion, to get them in the business. But I want to thank you, Mike, as I look at the list of sportscasters and I see, you know, Paul Eels and Jim Elder, yourself and Pat Summerall, Frank Bros. I don't belong in that category. Oh, yes, you do. But I'll take it anyway. And if you listen to UCA broadcasts, I thoroughly enjoy calling the UCA. My voice will break. It's pure excitement, and I've had the greatest time calling the Bears games. But thank you again.
That's good enough. Good enough for government work? That's right. I had that doctor you said to me, and I was all prepared.
If I can get right, I haven't got right with Hall of Fame part, but yeah, I want to. I still got the energy, and I still enjoy what I do. I think 59. I think that's my son Jim back.
Still doing the same thing. Same thing.
He's still with me now. That's hard to believe, isn't it?
What did you start for 30th year?
Thank you, Eric. Hello. Yeah, I tell you, he was a pro. I want to tell you. I really liked him.
Well, no, we'll do it when we go home. We'll redo it when we go home. I imagine you got to. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You are an